Welcome to Class Time, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE students.
You can watch this lesson real-time on Televisions Jamaica's YouTube channel or on One Spot Media.
We're also live on gojamaica.com.
If you have any question on today's subject, you can send them to Televisions Jamaica's Facebook page at Television Jamaica or Instagram at television_Jamaica or use the hashtag TVJClassTime.
And we want to see those questions. Today's lesson is CSEC Mathematics, and I am Nikisha Hardy.
And I am Donald Burrell.
Our topic is directed numbers. No, Burrell, your watch look nice.
Oh yes, I just bought it.
Yeah, you remember that $1,000 I loaned you to the other day?
Oh yes, yes.
You have it, I can get it back, please? I need it.
I can give it to you by next week Friday. I don't have it now.
Next week Friday? You don't have none at all, can give me now?
All right, let me see how much I have. I have $400.
All right, I'll work with that for now.
Okay, here it is. Social distance.
Thank you. You remember, it's not a gift in a barrel, it's a loan. I need back all of the money.
You will get it.
Okay, so today's lesson, we're looking at directed numbers. Now, the objectives for today are?
We are to be able to state what are directed numbers at the end of today's lessons.
Identify applications of directed numbers.
Add or subtract directed numbers.
And multiply directed numbers. Now, in our daily lives, we come across directed numbers when we check our temperature, when we deal with bank balances, games, and also measurement below or above sea level. Now, let us take a closer look at how directed numbers is applied in our daily lives.
Okay, so here we see football scores. Now, in a game of football, the scores can only go in one direction. They can only go up. So there can be a score of 1-0. There can be a score of 2-1. There can even be a score of 3-3. However, once a score is 3-3, it cannot change to 3-2 because the scores in a football match can only go in one direction, and that is up. It can only increase.
Good. Now, unlike the scores in a football match, the level of where the score goes in one direction, when we're looking at sea level, we're looking at distance and sea level. Sea level is where the surface of the sea that we see when we look out at sea, that would be the sea level. Now, we can either go away from we can either go in two directions away from sea level. So, Burrell, if I were to say to you, I am 1,000 meters away from sea level, how would you know where I'd be?
I don't know, because I can move upward or I can move downward 1,000 meters away.
Okay, so it therefore means I have to be specific.
Yes.
And we get this specific in terms of the labels that are applied to, right, when we apply labels in mathematics so that we can be precise in our communication. So I need to say I am 1,000 meters above sea level or below sea level.
And that way I will know which direction to travel.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, we can even talk about profit and loss. For any entrepreneur, when we start a business, the aim is really to make a profit. By making a profit, the amount of money that we have is going in a particular direction, and it is going up. It is increasing. However, sadly, there are times when we have to pay out or when we lose money. When we lose money and the money is moving outside of us, we call that a loss. Profit goes in one direction, increase, loss. Another direction, the opposite actually, it decreases or it moves away from us.
Yes. Now, our body also gives us information in terms of our temperature. And we usually use a thermometer, which in this case is measured in degrees Celsius, to tell us the temperature of our body. Now, the blue indicates coldness, and the red indicates heat or warmth. Now, you know, as your body temperature increases, the value of the numbers will rise on the thermometer, and as your body temperature decreases, the value of the numbers will decrease on the thermometer. And remember, 0 plays a very important, it's a reference point when we are talking about increasing and decreasing. The numbers on the thermometer reminds us of a number line.
Yes, it does.
And also, going back to our sea level, the sea level would be the 0 on, that would be a reference point as well. So, Burrell, we have been talking about finances, we've been talking about temperature, we've talked about football scores and sea level and other number of areas that we could think of. So basically, what are directed numbers?
Well, based on what I'm looking at, when I examined all the examples that we looked at, I realized two things screaming at me. All the numbers that we spoke about, they were telling us what direction to move, and they also told us how far or how much we should move.
Right.
So I'm thinking that directed numbers are numbers that have both a size and a direction.
Good. Yes. Now, remember some of the direction that we spoke about? We spoke about above 0 degrees, which is positive, and therefore below 0 degrees would be negative. Going north is positive movement, and going south would be a negative movement. Now, profit also, as Burrell said, would be positive and loss negative. Now, when we record history, when historians record history, they record it in relations to before Christ and after Christ. So AD would be after his death, would be positive, and before his birth would be negative. Now, when we're operating on directed numbers, let us go back to the scenario between myself and Burrell that involve us lending each other. I'm lending him money. Now, when I loaned Burrell the money, there was a decrease in the amount of money that I have in my purse. Now, when Burrell got that money from me, would you believe that there was also a decrease in his monetary value? Even though he had an increase in spending value, the money he borrowed is not his own. It was a loan or a debt. And when we have debt, those are expenses, those are expenditures. So those will be taking away value from what we have. All right, so bear that in mind. So therefore, when there's a decrease in our value, we subtract. Now, so in doing that, adding negative. Now, when Burrell got the money, he added a debt to his income, to his finances. He added a debt to his finances. When I gave him the money, I took out money from my purse. So I subtracted money that I have to give to Burrell. So notice that decrease occurs in two ways. When we add negative and when we subtract positive. So again, adding negative was when Burrell got the money because he increased a debt. He added a debt to himself. And when I gave him the money, that was subtracting positive because that's my money. So I'm subtracting. Now with directed numbers, increase happens when Burrell gives me back my money. It's now my money, so there's an increase. So there's an addition to what I have. Now, when Burrell gave me pay back the loan, there's also addition, an increase in his value because he no longer has that debt to deal with. So therefore, we're going to bear those things in mind as we go and operate on directed numbers. So we're going to be using the number line. The number line is a tool in math that we use to help us carry out many calculations. You might be thinking, the number line at this grade level, don't worry yourself. I use the number line because it gives me a visual representation of what I am doing, and it makes it more concrete. So we're going to be using the number line to help us to add and subtract directed numbers. Now, when we're using the number line, when we subtract, we moved to the left along the number line. So we move to the left. And when we're adding, we move right along the number line. So here we have an example where positive 3 is being added to 2. Will there be an increase or a decrease? That's what we need to ask before we start anything. Will there be an increase? So seeing that we're adding positives here, we're suggesting that there's going to be an increase. So here we have our number line. The first thing we need to do is to identify our positive 2 on the number line. So that's 2 distances away from 0. Then we're supposed to add positive 3. Remember when we add, which direction do we move again?
Right.
To the right. So we're going to move from 2, 3 places to the right. And when we do that, we notice that our suit man is now at 5. So therefore, 2 plus 3, 3 added to 2 is equal to 5. Okay, let's look at another example. Negative 4 is being added to 1. Let us think about this. Remember, negatives are our debt. Let's think about it in that regard. That's a debt. So we're adding debt to ourselves. So when we add debt, it therefore means what? Are we going to have an increase or a decrease in our monetary value? Good. You're going to have a decrease. Let's see. Using our number line. So when we have a decrease, remember what operation we use? Subtraction. So on our number line, we would first identify 1, positive 1, that is. And when we subtract, we move which direction? On the number line. All right, we'd go left. 4 places left. So starting from positive 1, 4 places to the left would take us to negative 3. I hope you are following. So therefore, negative 4 added to positive 1 is equal to negative 3. So let's recap what we just said just now. We have negative 4 to be added to 1, positive 1. So when we're adding negative, we're adding debt to ourselves. And when we add, when our value is going to be decreased, it means that we're going to subtract. So therefore, we're subtracting 4 from 1. And that on our number line shows that we would be at negative 3. Okay? Okay, before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more mathematics.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Welcome back. This is CSEC Mathematics, and we have been discussing directed numbers. Let us continue. Now on the screen we have here positive 3 to be subtracted from negative 2. So thinking about this situation, thinking about what we said about when we add debt or when we pay a debt, when we add debt to ourselves, that's subtracting because we're decreasing in the value or monetary value. And when we pay debt, we're increasing in monetary value because we don't have that debt to pay anymore. All right? So let's see. So we would start with negative 2. Now, before we go any further, do you think we'll be increasing or decreasing in value? Right? Let's see. Now, first of all, we need to find negative 2 on our number line, just to the left of 0. And then it says we're supposed to subtract positive 3. Now, remember, when I gave Burrell the money, when I loaned him, gave him the money as a loan, that was taking out money from my possession. So in that case, it's a positive. It's positive. It's coming out from my possession, going to Burrell. So it means, therefore, that my monetary value would be decreasing, right? So notice, negative 2, and we're subtracting positive 3. So my monetary value would be decreasing. So when we have a decrease, we do subtraction, and when we subtract, we move to the left on the number line. Now, from negative 2, subtracting 3, we have negative 5. Now, here's another example. So we have 3 being subtracted from 4. Positive 3 being subtracted from 4. So as remember, when you subtract a positive, you decrease, in value. So you're taking money out and putting money out, so your monetary value is decreasing. So let's see that on the number line. So we'd find 4 on our number line, positive 4 to the right of 0. And then we would go 3 places to the left as we are subtracting. And that would take us to 1. And that's positive 1. So just to recap so you can get it, make sure you get it. When we're adding positive, when we're subtracting positive, there's a decrease in monetary value. All right, so that's why we have 4 here and we end up with positive 1. Moving on to another example. Here we have negative 1 being subtracted from 2. Are we going to have an increase or a decrease? Think about it. Remember, negatives are debts, all right? And if you're subtracting a debt, you're getting rid of a debt, it means your monetary value would be increasing. So there, whenever we have an increase, we do addition. So let's see. So it therefore means it end up with 2 plus 1. So we'd find 2 on our number line, positive 2, and add 1. So that would give us 3. Remember, when we subtract negatives, we're getting rid of debt. We're taking out debt. So when you take a debt from your expenses, it means that you have increased your value. So we add. So we'd end up with 2, which is equal to 1. Now, what have you observed? We noted that when, as I said before, 2, and we're subtracting negative 1, we would end up with 3. So when we subtract a negative number, we get a positive result. So at this time, we have looked at adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers, directed numbers. So now we're going to turn over to Mr. Burrell, who will be taking us through multiplying directed numbers.
Okay. All right. So before we continue, I just want to take this moment to say to all my viewers from my alma mater, Excelsior High, and to the schools that I support, Fair Prospect High School, Port Antonio High School, and Yallas, I hope you're tuned in and I hope you're following. Good morning. All right. So before we get into multiplication of directed numbers, we're going to play a little game. And this game is called the jumping game. All right. But we have to establish something before we begin the jumping game. Okay. So let us say that we had this figure here that we have on screen, this expression. It is 2 plus 2 plus 2. Now, let's get out our number line. Because we now know how to add along the number line, we begin at, well, this should have been at 0. It is, we add 2, we add another 2, we add a third 2, and having add 3 groups of 2, we now realize that our final answer is going to be equal to 6. Now, it's a little bit jumbled on screen, but don't pay it much mind. So we realize that when we add 3 groups of 2, our final result is 6. Now, there's another way that we can write 3 groups of 2. And how we write it is how we've seen it on screen now. 3 multiply 2, and that would be equal to 6. So we realize that there are more than one ways of expressing the same thing. So here we're adding 3 groups of 2, and here it's saying the same thing. We're adding 3 groups of 2. We just represent it a different way. Okay, so if you notice now, each time we add 2, we're moving 2 spaces. So it's almost similar to jumping 2 spaces. So each time we're adding, we're jumping a certain amount of spaces, right? So when we added the first 2, we jumped 2 spaces. When we added the second 2, we jumped another 2 spaces. And when we add the third group of 2, we jumped another 2 spaces, for which our result is 6. Excellent. So here we see that we can just remove those signs that says we're just sliding along our number line and just have it as jumps. And who better to jump than a frog? Okay, let's go. So here's our friend again. He's Master Froggy. And Froggy, he knows how to jump, right? But there's one problem with Froggy. Froggy has been looking to the right all his life. He has never ever looked to the left. He has never looked behind him. All right? So if I tell Froggy to jump forward, Froggy would jump forward. Okay, so there is good. So if I told my Froggy to jump forward, Froggy would jump forward. And here we see Froggy knows how to jump forward. Similarly, if I asked Froggy to jump back, Froggy would jump backwards. All right, so there's a little mix-up in the slides, but let's go. But if Froggy was only facing the right, when I tell him to jump forward, he would be moving in this direction. And if I told him to jump backwards, he would only be moving in this direction to the left. So let's look at that again. If I ask him to jump forward facing right, he is going to jump to the right. If I ask him to jump backwards but facing right, he is going to jump to the left. Now, our Froggy here decided that for the first time in his life, he's going to look behind him. He's going to see what is behind him. So now Froggy is looking behind him. Now, if I tell Froggy to jump forward, which direction is Froggy going to jump? Exactly. Froggy is now going to jump to the left. But remember, if Froggy was facing right and I told him to jump, he would jump forward, he would jump to the right. So here we realize that for Froggy, we have to tell him what direction to face before he jumps, and we also have to tell Froggy what direction in which to jump. And that's very important when we're considering directed numbers, multiplying directed numbers, because remember, directed numbers give both size and direction. So both numbers that we are multiplying, they're both directed numbers, so both numbers are giving us some direction and they're giving us some size. So let's see if we can, so here would be explaining what we just explained. So here we have two directed numbers. Remember, each directed number is giving a size and each directed number is also giving a direction. Excellent. Good. So let's go into our first example. 3 multiply 2. Now what this is saying to us, let me just go back a bit. So here's where we need to focus on. I didn't explain this. One of our directed numbers is going to tell us what direction to face, whether left or right. The other directed number is going to tell us whether we jump forward or backward. And each directed number tells us, or one of the directed numbers is going to tell us whether how many jumps we take, and the other tells us how many spaces we clear each time we jump. All right, so now that we've established that, we can now go into our example. So here, let us start out with our number line here. Nice. And let's go to Froggy. Nice. So here we have Froggy, and we say, Froggy, we're going to multiply 3 by 2. And if you notice, it's positive 3 and positive 2. This positive 3 here tells us that Froggy is going to face to the right. Good. And every time that Froggy jumps, and Froggy is going to make 3 jumps. The second number is 2. This 2 here tells us that he's going to jump forward, because remember, we're looking at the direction. He's going to jump forward, and every time he jumps, he's going to jump 2 spaces. So that would be the first jump, second jump, third jump. And we realize that Froggy ends up at 6. So we realize that when we multiply positive 3 by positive 2, our result is positive 6. Now, on screen, it is a little bit jumbled. Don't mind it. Use your calculators. Follow with us to ensure that you know what you're doing is correct. So let's go to a second example. Great. 2 multiply 4. Again, in this situation, both numbers are positive. The first number, because it's positive, it tells me that Froggy is going to be facing to the right. So let's get up our number line. Great. Let's put our Froggy on our number line, and our Froggy is facing in the correct direction. He's facing right. Now, Froggy is going to make 2 jumps, and each jump is going to be 4 spaces. Now, given that the 4 is positive, what direction are we going to jump? Forward or backward? We're going to jump forward. And we're going to make 2 jumps forward because we have 2 groups of 4. That would take us to positive 8. So there's our Froggy. Our Froggy successfully landed on positive 8. Nice. So let's look at what we have done so far. 3 times 2, we got positive 6. Positive 2 times positive 4, or multiply positive 4, we got positive 8. What can we conclude? Here, we can say that when we multiply 2 positive numbers, the result also will be positive. Nice. Good job, guys. When we multiply 2 positive numbers, the product is positive. Good job. All right. So let's move on to another set of examples. Here we have positive 1 multiply negative 4. So let's get our number line up. Now, positive 1 tells us that Froggy is going to be facing which direction? Great. To the right. And he will make 1 jump. Now, 1 is being multiplied by negative 4. What direction are we going to be jumping if this 4 here, since this 4 here is negative? Are we going to be jumping forward or are we going to be jumping backward? Sweet. We definitely will be jumping backward because our directed number in this example is negative. So our Froggy is going to take 1 jump back, and remember, he jumps and clears 4 space. So he lands on negative 4. So we realize that our result is negative 4. 1 multiply negative 4 gives us negative 4. Let's check out another example. Here on screen, we now have negative 3 multiply 3. All right, as per usual, let's get up our number line and let's get our Froggy friend on the number line. So we have negative 3 here. What direction is Froggy going to be facing? Is it going to be to the left or is it going to be to the right? Excellent. Our Froggy should be facing left because the directed number is negative. Remember, our directed numbers gives us the direction. So we need to tell our Froggy to face left. Great. Now that Froggy is facing left, we know that Froggy is going to be making 3 jumps. Now, the direction was left. The size is 3 jumps. We're multiplying negative 3 by positive 3. So this positive 3 here is now telling us that each time our Froggy jumps, he's going to clear how many spaces? 3 spaces. All right? And which direction is our Froggy going to jump? He's going to jump forward. Exactly. Because positive is jumping forward. Let's go. He's going to jump 3 spaces forward facing left. 2, 3. Excellent. And we realize, having jumped so many spaces forward, our Froggy now lands on negative 9. So our result is going to be negative 9. All right. So let's examine what we've done so far. Now, we realize now that when we multiplied the negative 3 by the positive 3, we got a product that was negative. It was negative 9. When we multiplied 1, which was positive, by negative 4, which was negative, we recognize that our result was negative. Let's take a little closer look at this. Negative, multiply, positive, negative product. Positive, multiply, negative gives us a negative product. What can we conclude? I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it. In the meantime, I'll comb my hair. You got it? Great. We realize that once we multiply a negative number by a positive number, the result will be negative every single day and twice on Sundays. Excellent. So let's go back over that result. I'm just going to do it one more time so that we can get it. All right? So let's go back. Sweet. Now, let's look at this again. Remember, negative multiply positive gives us a negative product. Even though the order is switched around and we now have the positive multiplied by a negative, the product was still negative. Okay? So remember, when we multiply a negative number by a positive number, the result will always be positive every single day and twice on Sundays. Sweet. So let's move on to our next set of examples. All right. So in this example now, we have the big bad boy. You know those bad guys that you see at school and they're really hard to deal with? Yes, we have that guy right here. But this morning, we're going to make it look extremely simple. All right? So we have negative 2 being multiplied by negative 3. 2 negative numbers here. Now, we know what to do. So it's going to be very, 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 very simple. All right, guys? We start out with our number line. Bam. We place our froggy on our number line. And what direction is froggy going to be facing? Talk to me now, guys. Talk to me. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Our froggy is going to be facing left. Always remember, our directed numbers gives us both size and direction. So in this case, for negative 2, our direction is going to be left. Our froggy is going to be facing left. And our froggy is going to be making how many jumps? Nice. Froggy is going to be making 2 jumps. Now, we move to negative 3. What does the negative 3 tells us? Negative 3 tells us that we are going to be moving in the backward direction, or we are going to be moving backward, and every time that we jump, we are going to clear how many spaces? Excellent. We are going to be jumping 3 spaces at a time, but we'll be jumping backward. Remember, guys, our directed numbers gives us both size and direction. All right? So, our first 3 jumps takes us to 3, because remember, he's jumping backward, so he's jumping now to the right when he jumps backward, but he's facing left. And when he jumps again, it takes us to... Did any of you guys expect that? It took us to positive 6. So here, we realize that when we followed the steps and we had our froggy face in the direction based on our directed numbers, and then we jumped according to the label or the sign of our directed numbers, whether it be negative or positive, and we followed our rule, the answer took us to positive 6. So here we realize that when we multiply a negative number by another negative number, the result is going to be positive. So that is what we just observed, and we just reiterate it again. When we multiply a negative number by another negative number, the result is going to be positive every single day and twice on Sundays. All right. Now, let's just take a summary of what we did today. And I mean, today was just so cool, right? Because we did all of this in such a short space of time, and I'm pretty sure that you all got it. Now, when we multiply directed numbers, when we multiply two positive numbers, the result is positive, okay? And when we multiply when we multiply two negative numbers, the product also is going to be positive. And as a matter of fact, when you're writing it, you can probably write, it's going to be positive, sir, every single day and twice on Sundays. All right? Cool. And when we multiply a negative number by a positive number, we realize that the product is going to be negative every single day and twice on Sundays. Great. So if you have a phone out, I'm just going to tell you, probably just snap a picture of what is there, so when you want, you can rely on the rules. And you can snap a picture of this also, so you can do these questions. But hey, if you have any questions on what we have done today, send them in to our various platforms, and we'll answer them for you. Until next time, I am Donald Borrell and Nikisha. I'm Nikisha also. Thank you.